Just hit a button, Morty. Give me a beat.
Oh man, okay, alright,
My 2020-21 Premier League predictions. If you are looking for cheap, good quality football jerseys, then go over to www.jerseyfifa.com to get the new season's jerseys from just $25, and they do retro jerseys as well. If you use the coupon code Atlantis Football, you'll get 5% off, and a link will be left in the description below. In this video, I will be predicting the full Premier League table. In another video, I looked at 5 surprise packages for this season, so you can check out that video if it's come out. It should be linked in the description below, along with some of my other videos as well. But before I get into the predictions, make sure you subscribe to the channel and click the bell so you get notified when my videos come out. And as always, give this video a like if you enjoy it. So I'm going to start with 11th to 20th place, and then I'll be going from 10th to 1st place. So at the end, I'll be talking about who I think will get into the Champions League places and who will win the title. So in 11th, I'm going to go for Burnley. So Sean Dyche's side for a couple of seasons seem to be always overperforming their expected points. But last season they levelled up and became an unquestionable mid-table side, and aren't really a side focused on individual players, more the system around them, and they haven't lost any components in that system, so I think they'll be going strong next season as well, especially with the likes of Jay Rodriguez and Chris Wood up front, who were performing particularly well last season and getting them points when they were needed, which is what a lot of mid-table sides seem to struggle with, which can lead them to being pulled into a relegation battle. So in 12th place I've gone for Leeds United, so I think Bielsa's side will be a very exciting team to watch. I think we could see them smashing sides 5-0 early on in the season, but I think we could also see them losing heavily as well if their aggressive press goes wrong in certain games and they get counter-attacked on, which is going to be a massive risk in certain games with them pushing so many players so far up the pitch, and I think this will make them the most unpredictable side in the Premier League next season. They've also recruited very well for their system, bringing in Rodrigo Moreno, who will be a massive improvement on Patrick Bamford. They've replaced Ben White with Robin Koch, who's another very good ball-playing centre-back who fits the system very well. They've kept the likes of Pablo Hernandez, Calvin Phillips, Helder Costa, Klitsch, and the fullbacks who are so crucial to the system, so I think they should be having a very good season, and I think they will finish ahead of that middle pack and potentially be pushing for a top 10 finish. So in 13th place I've gone for Brighton. I think they will be in a relegation battle towards the middle of the season, but I think they have enough quality in their squad to get out of that and finish mid-table. They did finish mid-table in terms of 2020 last season, in terms of expected points, so I expect them to carry on that form. And in Graham Potter they have a manager who has a system that's built for that side, and I think they'll do pretty averagely next season. I don't think they'll be in too much trouble. They are going to be relying on the likes of Pascal Gross and Neil Maupay for attacking output, but I think they have a lot better quality than a lot of sides lower down them in my predictions. In 14th place I've gone for West Ham, which will be an underwhelming season for them, as I think they're expecting to get into the top 10 or at least be pushing for that. However, I see the same as last season for them. I think they'll be in a relegation battle for most of the season, and like last season I think they'll be able to pull themselves out of that relegation battle, as they do have a lot better quality players, especially in the attacking positions, than a lot of the sides lower down in my predictions. And I think that's what really helped them last season. The likes of Antonio and Bowen really came to the fore, and that's what helped them, especially in victories against Chelsea and the draw against Manchester United. So I think they'll finish around 14th, though I do think this would go down as an underwhelming season for West Ham. They seem to have been for a couple of seasons trying to regain that form they had under Slaven Bilic in the 2015-2016 season when they were pushing for the top 7, and I think that's going to be a real issue for them in the next few seasons, particularly if they continue with Moyes at the helm. I think he will probably be moved on next summer, so that's going to be my prediction, West Ham in 14th. So in 15th place I've gone for Crystal Palace, which maybe is a bit further down the table than some people, maybe Palace fans, would be expecting, and I've gone for that because in 2020 in the Premier League, if we look at them from expected points, they've actually finished in the bottom 5, and I think this is a long-term thing, a long-term systemic thing that's going on with Roy Hodgson. I think they are going to be pulled into a relegation battle. I think that sort of defensive counter-attacking style that Hodgson deploys works very well in keeping a side in the Premier League, but in terms of developing the system and bringing in players to help you push into the top 10, it's going to be a real struggle for them. I think Hodgson's really a stable manager, but he's not going to push on the side. I think they did sign Eze in the summer, so I think he's going to add some attacking flair, which they desperately need, and they're going to be relying on the likes of Zaha, Ayew and Eze for their attacking output solely alone. I think they will have enough to stay in the Premier League because of Hodgson's system, which is going to help them pick up points in games which are quite scrappy. Maybe they need a point, and he's going for that counter-attacking deep-sitting system, using Eze, Zaha and Ayew on a counter-attack, and that style really lends itself to finishing around 13th, 14th or 15th, so that's why I think Palace will finish next season. So now we come on to the bottom 5, and in 16th place I've gone for Newcastle. Newcastle actually finished bottom of the table last season when it came to expected points, which showed that they massively overperformed what would be expected of them in terms of the expected points metrics. This largely came down to Steve Bruce's side maybe getting fortunate in some games and Dubravka being really good in goal. That shows that their system isn't sustainable, and I think they're going to be in a relegation battle next season as well, as they can't surely keep up this overperformance. They have signed well in the transfer window though, so this could be a good sign for them. Steve Bruce does use a deep, compact defensive unit that relies on quick transition in attacks, which is why he brought in players that could fit with his counter-attacking style, which is why he brought in Ryan Fraser and Callum Wilson, who played this sort of quick transition in attacking style at Bournemouth, and he does have St Maximin on the other side as well, which is going to lead to Newcastle scoring a lot of counter-attacking goals, which is why I think they would have just enough to pull themselves away from the relegation zone and finish 16th. So in 17th place, just above the relegation zone, I've gone for Sheffield United. So this is probably the most unexpected one of all my predictions, and the reason I've gone for this is I think they're going to have a massive fall off with the loss of Dean Henderson in goal. They massively overperformed their expected goals against, conceding 13 goals less than would be expected, and this was solely down to Henderson in my opinion. They've lost him and brought in Ramsdale, who's nowhere near as good a shot stopper as Henderson. I think that's going to tell with them conceding a lot more goals. They also struggle up front, they don't really have a creative player, and they rely more on the system than they do on individual players, which is a good thing but also a problematic thing, particularly in games when they struggle to press the ball up the pitch and are therefore sitting too far deep to really create anything, and I think that's going to be a massive problem for them throughout the season. I think they'll also be dragged into that relegation battle, which is going to have a massive psychological effect on them, and this is what people call the second season syndrome, and I think this is a real thing, and we will see this start to happen throughout the season. Maybe not at the start where they will probably be a mid-table side, but I think they could easily get dragged into the relegation battle as Bournemouth did last season. So in 18th and to get relegated, I've predicted Aston Villa, and I've gone for this because they have spent a lot of money on Ollie Watkins, even though I do think they've overpaid. But this does seem to be a systemic issue at Villa, with them not really signing players to suit a system, signing players who look good individually and bundling them into one system, and I think this is going to be another problematic season for them. They were quite lucky to get out of the relegation zone towards the end of the season, but this season I think they're going to struggle even more, and I can see them going down. I think they will go down maybe the second or last day of the season. I don't think they're going to be like Norwich down at the bottom for most of the season, but I do think they're not going to have the experience in their side as maybe a Newcastle do to get out of that as they've done for the last few seasons, and that's why I'm predicting that Villa will be one of the sides to get relegated. So in 19th place I've gone for West Brom, and in 20th place I've gone for Fulham. I think Fulham's issue is going to be similar to Norwich's last season, but they are good in possession, keeping a lot of the ball, but I don't think they'll create much. They don't have a lot of quality in their squad, and they haven't brought in a lot of players who can really take them to the next level and push them forward. I think they are going to have a lot of issues playing out from the back, getting caught on the balls. They don't have the best ball playing centre backs, and I think this is going to be an issue for them. I think they will be the whipping boys of the league, and I think they will be far at the bottom the same way Norwich were, looking like they're going to get relegated from February onwards, which is why I've gone for them at the bottom. I also think West Brom are going to struggle. They do have Matthias Pereira, who's an excellent creative player, but they haven't done enough in the transfer market to elevate their squad, and I can see Scott Parker and Slaven Bilic being the first two managers to get sacked, as these clubs do have a history of turning over managers quite quickly and making the wrong appointments, which is probably one of the crucial things when it comes to the relegation battle in the Premier League, and that's why I think these two are going to be the bottom two. So that's the bottom half of the table done. Now let's get on to the top half, but before we do that, make sure you subscribe to the channel and click the bell to get notified when my videos come out. Also, after this video, check out some of my other videos linked in the description below or on the playlist section on my channel. So in 10th place I have gone for Everton. So Everton have brought in a lot of signings, Alain, Decore and James Rodriguez, who on paper look like excellent signings. But I do think they are going to have the same issues that they had when they spent a lot of money a few summers ago. They've sort of brought in players who look great individually, but I don't think their side has any set system, and I think this is going to be what costs them, particularly against the top half of the table, where the managers have better tactics and are better equipped to breaking down sides tactically, and I think this is where Ancelotti's going to struggle. I don't think he's one of the best tactical managers in the world anymore. I think his systems are quite stagnant and do rely on individual players, which is probably why he's brought in the likes of James Rodriguez to really take on that creative burden. Nevertheless, I don't think they're going to have enough to be pushing for a top 7 place. I think those sides are much better over a full season than Everton will be, although I would put money on Everton starting the season pretty well, and I think Calvert-Lewin will have a good season, particularly with James Rodriguez coming in behind him. So in 9th place I've gone for Ralph Hasenhüttl. So if we look at the Premier League table just in 2020, Southampton would be 7th when it comes to expected points, which does suggest that they should be pushing for the top half, and I think they will be. Hasenhüttl has a really good system, and we're going to see the benefits of this compared to Everton's side, who do have better players, but I think Hasenhüttl is a type of manager who can really develop players, so I would expect big seasons from Kyle Walker-Peters, Redmond, James Ward-Prowse, and particularly Danny Ings again up front, who I think is going to be the catalyst behind their form. So in 8th place I have gone for Wolves. So I've gone for Wolves in 8th place because they are a particularly good side. Are getting into the top half of the table. They finished 7th in the last 2 seasons, and I expect them to get the top half again. I don't see a significant decline in them. Nuno's counter-attacking system is very efficient, particularly against the top half of the table, and they're going to pick up points, whereas the mid-table sides probably won't pick up points in these sorts of games, and they're probably going to be the best of the rest, competing for that 8th and 7th places again, and having another good stable season. So in 7th place I've gone for Jose Mourinho's Tottenham. So if we look at the table from when Mourinho took over and we look at their expected points, Tottenham would actually have finished 11th, which means they massively overperformed, and this is in large part down to the likes of Heung-min Son and Harry Kane. However, it's not sustainable. And I think we're going to see the same sort of Mourinho effect that happened at Manchester United and at Chelsea, and I wouldn't even put money against him getting sacked midway through the season. I think Tottenham will hold out for the whole season, but I think they will be disappointed by the end of it. I don't think they're going to be anywhere near the Champions League places, particularly in the second half of the season. And I think we're going to see a lot of the same as we did last season, stagnant football, struggling to break down sides, and I think the Tottenham fans will start to turn on Mourinho throughout the season. So in 6th place I have gone for Leicester City. I think they were fortunate last season. The likes of Chelsea, Manchester United, Arsenal and Tottenham weren't at their best and were struggling throughout the season, which is why we saw them in 3rd and 4th for most of the season. I think we will see a drop off because they haven't strengthened significantly, and I don't think we'll see any major signings before the window closes. I think Rodgers is going to continue to do a very good job with what he has. They do have some very good young players, likes of Maddison, Tielemans and Didi. I think Vardy, I don't think he'll be able to perform to the same level, overperforming his XG as high as he did last season, which was over 4 goals. And I think we are going to start to see the declining effect of Vardy on the Leicester side. However, they do have a nice fixture list to start with, so I would expect them to be in 3rd or 4th position, maybe by game week 8 or 9, but I do think they will tail off towards the end of the season. So in 4th and 5th place I've gone for Manchester United and Arsenal. I do think these two are going to be ahead of maybe Tottenham and Leicester, but I don't think they're going to be competing with the top 3, Chelsea, Liverpool, Manchester City. But I do think Manchester United will get 4th place and Arsenal will get 5th place. I think this would be a success for Arteta's side, considering the budget he has and what he has to work with. I think Gabriel and Saliba will dramatically improve their Arsenal backline. I think AUBAMEYANG is a major asset for Arsenal with his overperformance of his XG, which does help them throughout the season. I think that will continue to happen next season. Pepe I think will get better, we'll see Ceballos getting better, and I wouldn't rule out them bringing in another big player before the end of the season that will dramatically improve them from last season. So I think they're going to finish 5th, as I do think Manchester United will get the better of them towards the end of the season, even though I do think it will be a close race for top 4. Manchester United haven't strengthened significantly enough to challenge for the top 3. They've brought in Van der Beek, but that only really strengthens their squad, not their starting 11. They haven't addressed the major issues in their side, and I think this is going to cost them, and I think we are going to see a pretty stagnant side, even if the likes of Martial, Rashford and Greenwood all progress, and I think they're going to be the players that are key for Manchester United, pushing them to get 4th place, but I don't think they have enough at the minute to push the top 3 at all. So in 3rd place I have gone for Chelsea. So even though they've brought in major signings such as Ziyech and Werner, which are going to push them onto a title challenge in my opinion, I don't think Lampard's as good a manager as Klopp or Guardiola, which is going to make the massive difference. I expect Manchester City to be a lot better than they were last season, and I think Klopp's system is so well drilled and the players understand it to perfection, which is going to give them the advantage over this new Chelsea side with a lot of new players coming into the side. And I think that we will see Lampard's side do pretty well throughout the season, but I think they will get let down at big parts of the season in big games where Lampard's tactical side is really tested to the limit against maybe sides like an Everton or a Southampton. I think we will start to see them slip up throughout the season, even though I do think they'll be in the title race at least until Christmas, maybe until February, but I think that's when the top 2 start to drift away from them. So to win the Premier League, I've gone for Manchester City, as if we look at their expected points last season, they underperformed their expected points by 5 points, whereas Liverpool massively overperformed their expected points by 24 points, which does suggest that Liverpool are going to come down towards their expected points last season. I don't see them being able to sustain this run of form throughout 2 seasons. I think this is when Manchester City will really excel. I think Manchester City will be the side to storm away when we get to maybe March, and I think Liverpool will have a few slip-ups as they did in the Champions Champions League last season, and I think that we will see Manchester City regain their title as Liverpool fall off to what their expected points was around last season. So thank you for watching. If you enjoyed that video, remember to give it a like and a share if possible, subscribe to the channel and click the bell for notifications. Also check out some of my other videos linked in the description below, especially my 5 surprise packages for the season, which I released before this or after this. It should be out when you're watching this. And also for cheap, good quality football jerseys, click the link in the description below and use the code ATLANTISFOOTBALL for 5% off.